So you're ready to get rid of all that toxic energy out of your life. You're ready to live a life of freedom, joy, bliss, and love like you know you deserve. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 5 tips that spiritually awakened people will do to release toxic behaviors from their life. Hi, I am Bethel, and I am dedicated to assisting people along the path of their spiritual awakening by sharing juicy tidbits of fun, loving, freedom-inspired messages. And today's will be that as well. As we move along in life, we pick up lots of habits. Some we had before we were even born. It's embedded into our DNA. It's been passed down from generation to generation. And as you go through your spiritual awakening journey, you realize you do not have to continue to allow those generational toxic behaviors to influence you anymore. And the ones that you've created throughout your life do not have to run your life anymore as well. And I'm going to talk about the top 5 toxic behaviors that you may not even realize that you are still holding on to, hurting your progression along your spiritual path. The first toxic behavior that you may still be holding on to is a goodie. It is rare that you run into a person that doesn't struggle with this one, and it is the trap of negative self-talk. It's amazing how some of us will talk to ourselves. If we talk to another person the way we talk to ourselves, we'd be thrown in jail for verbal assault. And my friends, you probably already realized, if you're on this journey, that you get to start loving yourself more. Talk to yourself like you would talk to a child. It is a rare person that would look at a child and start scolding them. Why should you be any different? Think about it. Have you ever inspired a person to change or do something differently by yelling at them? Probably not. If they do it, it's out of fear, not out of respect. And my friends, you don't want to fear yourself. That negative self-talk can be tricky. It can get in there in little tiny ways that are more than just a verbally assaultive, oh, you just are a loser kind of voice. It can come softly, quietly, like, I'm not ready to try this next project. I don't know enough to do this. Let me just wait and see what happens. My friends, those are small, toxic, negative self-talk. You're not telling yourself you're no good, but are you giving yourself the permission to be your glorious, beautiful self either? Anything that is fear-based usually starts with 2 simple words. What if? All of this stuff is the silent, often misunderstood trap of a negative self-talk. Get rid of it. Let it go. How many of you are guilty of those silent ones? Maybe we've even walked around, I know I have, going, I no longer talk bad about myself. Yet, I still let the fear and all of that silent, dangerous, tricky self-talk hold me back. My friends, start observing these things inside of you. Start asking yourself if it is fear holding you back or wisdom and discernment. Observe it without judgment, and then go from that space. A lot of my friends love to go skydiving. They say it's exhilarating and beautiful, and they are terrified, but they go anyways. And then I have some friends who do not go skydiving because they're terrified. But then I have some other friends who realize, hey, I have this disability. If I go skydiving, it could break my back. Or I have a heart condition, and that will cause me to possibly not make the jump. So they are choosing not to skydive because they're afraid. They're choosing not to skydive because it would cause harm if they did. So there is a difference between fear holding you back and wisdom and discernment holding you back. And only you get to decide what that is. Number one is a tricky one. And as you progress through this and realize more and more how you no longer blatantly are telling yourself, oh, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I can't do this, what if I fail? You're also realizing more of the little things that are fear-based. That is also negative self-talk. Because anything that says you can't do it is a negative self-talk. Because my friends, if you put your mind to it, you can do anything. Don't you think so? The second toxic behavior that you will notice that you will start releasing during your spiritual awakening journey is the need for control. Control, it comes from anxiety and fear. It gives you the false illusion that you can prevent something bad from happening. The joke's on you, though, because what you resist persists. What you are so afraid of happening usually will end up happening. Have you ever bought a new car and you're excited and you go to the grocery store and those parking spots are really small and you don't want to get a door ding, so you park far out in the parking lot. And you go to the grocery store and you come back successfully, no door ding. Give it enough time though. You're always parking far away. Hope because you're afraid of those door dings, you go to your car and there's a great big scratch on the side of your car, or a little one. Those door dings are so annoying, aren't they? But did your control stop you from experiencing that door ding? It continued to bring it into your space. The harder you hold on to something, the less power you have. Think of it as going to the beach and picking up a great big handful of that wet sand and squeezing it. What happens the harder you squeeze? For those of you that might have never done this, clumps of wet sand start seeping between your fingers. And you squeeze harder, and before you know, you have a little tiny bit left that cannot get through your fingers. But that whole handful that you started with is gone. The control, the holding on, only got rid of maybe the good parts. To be able to release this toxic habit, you get to surrender. Surrender does not mean quitting, doing nothing. It means you start observing. It means you start trusting the universe. It means that you carry one of those mantras that I love so much. Life is always working out for me. Life doesn't happen to me. Life works for me. And then let go of your need to control it and see what happens. By allowing life and the universe to take you down your path of where you want to go. By you actively telling the universe where you want to go and allowing it to dictate the direction of your life, the faster you'll get there. And you get to trust that the universe is here to do just that for you. The third toxic thing you get to let go of, you're probably guilty of this one. We're ingrained at a young age to do this, is people pleasing. People pleasing is incredibly different than being kind. They're two different things. I'm not here to say stop being kind. I'm not here to say be selfish and the rest of the world can fend for themselves. You're done with them. That's not what a spiritually awakened person would do. People pleasing comes from when you start sacrificing yourself and what you know is right to try to make other people like you. People pleasing usually comes in one of three different ways. Either you say yes and you give to another person to avoid conflict or disappointment, or you drain your energy by saying yes when the answer should be no. A lot of women will fall into this way because the pressure to do and be everything, especially if you're a mother, is huge. Do you know of anyone in your life who has pushed and pushed and pushed, is always going? It very rarely seems they take care of themselves. They are a busy bee, and they're always doing everything for everybody but themselves. And the third one is you overextend yourself to maintain the peace. These are like the peacemakers of a family. These are the ones where there's chaos all around and you're running from person to person, trying to restore the peaceful order of things, and to the point where maybe it makes you sick or tired. Being a people pleaser may work in the short run. People will learn to rely on you. However, if you are unable to take care of yourself, how long will you be able to continue to take care of others? You can't pour from a cup that is empty. There will come a time where you have nothing more to give, and your body will do one of two things. You'll either get sick or injured. I have a very dear friend. She is one of the most loving people I know, and she will do anything for her family. And usually it comes from a place of spiritual enlightenment and strength. But just recently, she has found herself in a situation where a lot of her own needs were not being met. And she continued to give and give and give. And she got into a terrible horseback riding accident. She got thrown off of a horse at 50 miles per hour, probably, shattered her rib cage, her pelvic bones, collapsed the lung, broken collarbones. It's probably easier to tell you what's not broken than what isn't. She is now completely dependent on those around her because she's not able to move. This is an extreme example, but when I was talking with her and asking her how she felt she got to where she was, she kind of calmly said, I was doing too much. I was helping my sister who was needing some extra help, and I knew in my gut I should have said no. However, I said yes. And then the next day, I'm now crippled and I can't walk. We are hoping that she will be able to walk here soon. She's making profound, wonderful improvements. However, friends, how long can you give of yourself before something will stop you flat on your tush, in her example? And do you really want the universe to do that to you? This is a toxic habit to say no to now. It's doing nobody any good. Remember, you are still kind. You are still giving. You still serve others. But you set those boundaries. You know when to say no. I have a short, wonderful video about do not do it unless it's a hell yeah. Go watch that video if you already haven't. But there is wisdom in making sure that every time you do something, you are in a hell yes state, so you do not overextend yourself. A fourth toxic habit that you get to start releasing and becoming aware of in your life is the fear of judgment. This kind of goes in hand with people pleasing, doesn't it? Because a people pleaser doesn't want to be seen as a horrible person. Looking for that external validation tells the universe and your higher self that you don't trust it. You know the answers inside of you. You have everything that you need right now. You do not need to look to somebody else for that approval. We want it, don't we? I was in a class just today where a gentleman came on and was just so frustrated. because he didn't feel like he was doing good enough. And the coach looked deep into this person's content and what they were creating and was just amazed. And the guy kind of ended up laughing and going, I guess I just needed to hear someone else saying I was doing good enough. We all get like that. Spend a little bit of time every day to remind yourself you're doing great. Yes, it feels good to have a coach who knows what they're doing pat you on the back. But if you can't get that, pat yourself on the back. Yes, it is hard when maybe you are surrounded by a lot of people who do not give you the compliments you deserve. But none of them matter anyways. The only opinion that matters is yours. And if you can get yourself into that state of mind where you basically are saying, I don't care, and truly mean it, is when you can really start to thrive and shine and live your life on purpose. You get to live for yourself, not caring what another person would say or do. Another thing that falls in this fear of judgment, and I bet you do this, and I know I do, and we all do this, is compare ourselves to other people. What good is that? The other person isn't on the same path as you are. The other person hasn't had the same life experiences as you are. It would be just as silly to compare yourself as you would try to compare a banana to a baseball. You can't do it. Yet we do, don't we? A long time ago, I heard this thing from a wise person who just said, compare how you are today to how you were yesterday. And if you were at least just 1% better, that's all that matters. If you gave yesterday all you had and you weren't even 1% better, but you know you did the best you can, that's it. The comparing of ourselves to another person only brings heartache, pain, and unnecessary problems. And it's toxic. Once again, most of us probably would not look at a child and go, look at you. Why can't you be as good as this person over here? I've heard parents yell at kids and say that, but most of the people that are run around in this circle don't talk to children like that. So let's all join together and stop talking about ourselves that way. We're doing great. And the only person you get to compare yourself to is yourself. And to make sure you're doing just a little bit better today than you did yesterday. And then the fifth toxic thing goes hand in hand with this fear of judgment is the desire for external validation. I kind of already talked a little bit about this when I was talking about the fear of judgment, but it deserves a category all on its own. Because we are so afraid of what other people are thinking and saying about us, we desire, it's natural for us to look to another person and say, please let me know I'm doing good. Only opinion that matters is your own. The validation that comes is your connection with your higher self. The only validation that matters is how you'll start seeing deeper connections with people around you. That is how you know that you're on the right track. And then if you go back to the step 4, where you compare yourself to how you were before, if you're doing that 1% better, that's all the validation that you really do need to know. As you can see by me going through these steps, I kind of intertwined a lot of them together. They all are a hot, toxic mess, which, can you imagine how freeing you could feel by just tossing them all away? You deserve it. Toss it away. Go ahead and put in the comments different ways that you have found effective of tossing these toxic habits away. Maybe there's one I didn't talk about that deserves mentioning right now. Put them in the comments. Let's start an open dialogue and open communication on this. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any more of my juicy tips. And my friends, start living a life of freedom, let go of those toxic behaviors. Until next time, namaste.